Good morning, gorgeous. It is lovely to see you, and it's beautiful out here today. There you go, blue sky. Corner of the washing line, get that out of the way. That is sky, and you can hear Tui. And that's a chaffinch, and it's a beautiful day. There's so much to show you. Let me not get distracted by the fact that I'm over here where the rose is. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, glorious people. Walking in the garden here, but really, we got to see this. And look, this beautiful thing is just sort of pouring over the fence. It's had a bit of a hard life, as you can see. The weather has not been ideal for roses, but I'm hoping now that it'll settle down and in a day or two, more of the buds will have opened and the old brown flowers will have fallen off and it'll look beautiful again. That's pretty, having the sun come through things. Good morning, Andrew. And look, up behind the rose, we have Alstroemeria coming out, which is very bright, but just before we get there, let's look in this little shady corner. We have a geranium. It's beautiful foliage. And this is very cute. Trying to get a decent photograph of this all month and can't. But look at that. Isn't it beautiful? The last of the granny's bonnet. It is a very special one. I've not seen that one before. And the soldiers and sailors are still doing its thing. Let's have some focus here. There you go. You can see it's sharp. So the early summer, late spring flowers are sort of finishing. And look, you can see my really beautiful rigging, but it was very windy and you have to do things to stop things from waving around so much that they break. So this is the mechanics here. And Nora, good morning. And we have hydrangeas, and they're just blue enough to go with the garden. If I don't sprinkle iron salts around here, they come out too red and then they clash. Look at this one. Isn't that beautiful? And the love and the mist is coming up through them and making lots of seed heads. There's more of the flowers. It's easier in the shade. You can see them. And all the daffodil and all the jonquil leaves fall over and they make great mulch. They cover the ground. So here are the Alstroemeria. Very much sunstruck, but they're beautiful. Just, glorious with the light coming through them. And they make a lovely contrast with the blue-purple hydrangeas. That's the whole point. That's how I set it up, eventually, after many years of experimenting. This is something exciting. You can just see the first flower is blue. It opens up into a kind of a trumpet. So that will happen. Look, there's a lot of them there. And the iris is still looking beaten up, but there are new flowers coming. I'll just take that one off. You can see some fresh flowers coming and how white and perfect they are in the centre. Good morning, Heather! Look at this. I just love this field. It's a square metre, but this just wild. Love in the mist, and behind it you can see the foliage, or below it you can see the foliage of snow and summer, which has long since finished being snowing, but it's still beautiful. And this is the first year it's really looked good because it's got something else growing through it. It's a fun thing with ground covers. They're quite difficult and they often don't really cover the ground. What else can I show you? Yeah, quick tour. There's such a lot. I don't want you to miss out. So this big campanula here is taking over the world, which is its job. That's what it's supposed to do. Good morning, Sharaya. Good morning, Jen. And we have another Japanese iris here coming along. This isn't the best spot for it, but it grows. So in the absence of a better spot, I leave it there. More love in the mist. And we have some larkspur. It's fallen over. It needs to be in a meadow so that when the wind blows, it doesn't fall over. But there it is, and it's beautiful. This is a happening thing. This is exciting. Here is what Thalictrum looks like when it's really flowering. Look at that. Isn't it fantastic? So, it's all about the stamens with the yellow pollen on them. But when you stand back, and when the camera sorts itself out, it's like this coloured gypsophila. So that is something I wanted you to see. because it's glorious. Take a quick look up at the native section here, which I actually really enjoy now, the way it grows. These are all native plants. And there's the sun. Behind the Australians, that's the Australian section, all two of them. Last but not least, walkies. Today there's just a lot to see. Nobody's complaining, I know I'm not. Down into the wild garden, and I need to cover the red currant because it's turning into red currants. And if I don't, the birds will get them, which is lovely for the birds, but I'd like to have some too. So, yeah, there you go. You can see the fruit. It's a bit contrasty. There you are. It's a bit better. But what I wanted you to see was this, because it's still really happening here. You've got the cassia and you've got the Campanula Elizabeth, which is very pretty. And then we've got this crazy wild tall purple Campanula that we're all familiar with. It grows up the back. And then behind it, look at that. There's another one. This is the one that flowers later, and it's just fabulous. It is a wonderful, crazy mess of a thing. A crib wall is a mixed blessing because it just always grows weeds. But this one now grows Campanula. It's taken me 30 years to figure out what to put in that crib wall, believe me. It's quite a journey with a garden. It's constantly evolving. So, now I want to get to the topic. And this is for everybody, and I have to say this is not me, so I've got to be careful because I'm not really speaking from personal experience here. I'm speaking from what I've learned and from some stuff that I know, and so this is my disclaimer. I have not actually gone through this, but I want to talk about this because a lot of people do. And it's the situation where the people around you do not contribute to your peace. Let's just say it that way. And, most people are pretty randomly incoherent, unbalanced, stressed, all of that stuff. That's what happens because most people don't realise that they are not the victim of their circumstances. They don't realise that they have the ability to literally change their mind by choosing what they're thinking about and how they're feeling and all of that. They have no idea that when they're incoherent, and we spoke about incoherence yesterday and what that actually is, that then they're emitting, apart from sending a really incoherent signal to their body, which eventually is going to push the genetic buttons for disease, because that's what happens. And apart from feeling like shit, they're also emitting, that's the word I wanted, they're also emitting a really incoherent signal to the universe, which of course means that they get incoherence, they get stress, they get difficulties in their lives. But more than that, their incoherent energy field, which you can measure, then creates lovely interference patterns with the other energy fields of the people they're around. And if that happens to be you, and you are working to be coherent, it's like, oh shit, I can't get away from this difficult person. What the hell? And yet we all get a bit like that sometimes, Andrew. So this I know. It is by no means am I always, on the level. But for me it is very easy because I live in this little bubble. I live in this paradise. I have my challenges, but compared to what some people face, I think they're nothing now. I used to have so much frustration and difficulty with my challenges, but now, Maddie, get into gratitude. And that's actually a good place to start. If that person, that situation, that circumstance is there in your environment pushing your buttons, it's still your buttons that are getting pushed. And yeah, most of us understand that, but how do you deal with it? Because you just want it to go away. And you just want people to stop being who they are, which we all know isn't going to work because changing who you are is quite difficult, right? So what do you do? So I thought about that. And here's what I observe is useful. And this part I do. I have to do. because everybody in some way or other wants to fix, and everybody wants to take responsibility for somebody else. And this is a very deep question. It's not nearly as simple as it seems when I say you have to take responsibility entirely for yourself and not for anyone else. Because the first way we think about that, because if someone's in chaos, it's not your job to fix them. But if they're in your face and you've got to deal with them, well, what do? How do you maintain your own internal order? And actually, before I start talking about this deep dance of how do I be responsible for myself without enabling people, without fixing them, and without losing my plot all the time, for me, and for some people even this is difficult because of their circumstances, the non-negotiable is 2 hours in a day, I walk into a room, I lock the door, and it's my time. After that, it's open slather. But non-negotiable will have time for myself to do my inner work, because when I've done that, I'm better equipped to face whatever else is going to greet me when I walk out that door, right? I'm better equipped to face my own stuff that then is potentially going to get triggered up and fired up and kicked off by everybody else's stuff. Because you better believe that if somebody is upsetting you, there is a resonance in common with them that you have. And it's like, oh, but I just did all this work to stop being like those people, and, they're behaving like numpties, and you want me to not react to them? Well, it's not about suppressing your reactions. It's about being so connected to yourself, which again isn't easy when life is busy and you have to choose between working on yourself and sleep, which is what it boils down to for me, which is why I steadfastly refuse to ram anything else into my life, because, I shorten my nights so I can do my inner work. I have no regrets. I am more effective and I cope much better with a short night than I used to with a longer one. But don't ask me to add anything else. No! So there's a deep no in me about that now. And some of you know what that's like, okay? So it's this very fine dance about, well, how do I deal with the fact that my life is busy and I have demands and I have responsibilities, but I have to be responsible for myself first. Because if I don't do the work on being balanced and finding coherence and working out how that is from moment to moment, and I'm thinking of a beautiful friend and client of mine who literally can't do that because of the work that he does. He does his work standing up on the days when he can't sit down and do it. With his eyes closed, he's walking around. Moment to moment, he is choosing what he's thinking about and how he's dealing with stuff. And he doesn't get it all stitched together all the time either. But the point is, I'm reminded, I'm sure I've told this story before. My inspiration, Dr. Joe Dispenza, yes. And, he says, 2 hours, and he'll get up at 3 a.m. to do those 2 hours. If he has to then trot off and get a flight or what, he will just do it, because he says, 2 hours, my time, and the rest of the day I'm serving. That's just how he thinks about it. And so that's what he teaches. You need to do this every day. And he says, sometimes people come up to me like I'm a priest and they say, Dr. Joe, I didn't do my meditation today. Like they're confessing. And he always says the same thing to them. He says, well, eyes open or eyes closed. Who are you being? What are you choosing? That's the conversation. Because it's one thing to create myself with my eyes open, and I love to do it with my eyes closed, and I love to do that, and I insist on doing that, and it's essential for me, and my life is changing and my body is healing, and all this stuff is different because I'm doing that. But if life happens, don't sweat. Remember who it is you're choosing to be, and keep doing it with your eyes open as much as you can. And use your tools, If you have to go and sit on the toilet for 5 minutes to open your focus, then do that. We can always get away. Sometimes it's not possible to take an hour or however long to sit down and really work with yourself. For me, it is. Like I say, I don't live in that situation where I don't have the ability to make the time that I desire to take for myself. It's a choice, but I do it because I just want it so much. So, if people or circumstances are triggering you, there's something in you that is reacting. And there is this deep dance after, however it is that you prioritise yourself and do your inner work. That's a baseline. Nothing's going to change or work if you're not working towards coherence on a day-by-day, moment-to-moment basis. Period. Right? This is just what I believe. And experience. I don't want to use that word believe. I say believe because I've experienced it. The only reason I believe anything is because I've experienced it. It's a truth. It's knowledge. It's wisdom. It's experiential. It's visceral. I don't believe anything unless it's that for me. Let me just clarify what that word means to me. It's not faith. It's not something out there that isn't real to me. It's here. It's in my gut. I know it. So in that way, I know that I believe that is true. If I don't do the work, nothing's going to change in my life. So let's say that however it is you are working towards your coherence, you are doing that, and you are doing that consistently. And there is chaos around you. This is what I know. Coherence entrains, brings into line, makes resonant with itself, makes order out of incoherence. And there's a beautiful, beautiful thing, a wonderful demonstration, which is in the progressive workshop that Dr. Joe Dispenza, you get access to it for 3 months. Watch it while you can. And there's this experiment in this video, and there are, I think it's 36 metronomes, and they're sitting on a table in 9 rows of 4 or whatever it is, and you sit, and the video starts rolling, and there they all are, and then there's a pair of hands, and they just start all the metronomes going tick tock, tick tock. A metronome is the thing that keeps time, and there's an arm, and it's got a weight at the top, and it just swings, right? And so the people in the video, they just start them all swinging, and they're all higgledy-piggledy all over the place. All over the place, just like our brains when they're in survival. When all the neural networks are firing all over the place, it's random, it's crazy, we feel awful, we feel upset, our bodies are sick, the whole 9 yards. And then as you keep watching, they're all going tick-tock all over the place, you start to see that there are groups of them, 3 or 4 or 5, a whole row, that start to all together. They didn't start off that way, but they start to connect up. They're all tick-tocking at the same speed, but out of time. And what happens is that they start to synchronise. You're just watching this. Nobody's doing anything, but they're watching it because this is resonant. This is resonance. This is the signal. This is the sine wave. Being like a flock of birds, like attracts like. It is incredible. And they carry on tick-tocking, and you see more of them joining in. Because coherence, the stronger it gets, the more things start to fire together in your brain. The more things start to fire together in your brain, it grows, it gets more coherent. That's why you have to practice it every day. And then when you open your eyes, you practice it some more. Because coherence entrains incoherence. And so you see it, and it gets to the place where 35 out of 36 of the metronomes are all going ting, ting. And by that time, by the way, the table it's on is actually going from left to right as well, and it's a solid table. But there's so much power in that resonance that it moves the table. And he says, and there's always that one last neuron. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. And it's just completely reversed to what the other 35 metronomes are doing. And then you watch it and it changes. And they're all together, they're all synchronous. And that's literally what happens in our brains, but in our hearts. When you get better at holding that space and that state, and that like it is a physical state of being, it's a neurological physical state of being, to be in coherence. When you get better at doing that with your eyes open, as well as with your eyes closed, both have an impact on your life. What you find is that you become the 35 metronomes, and the crazy people and situations around you become the one. And your coherence entrains, lines up, organises the incoherence around you. And of course the fun part is you can't predict how that's going to happen. And so it's a real dance of holding the truth inside you, living the truth inside you, not taking responsibility for fixing people, but doing that deep dive of thinking, oh, you know, my grandson, my child, my spouse, my friend, whatever it is, they've got this going on. Now, actually, as a coherent, noble, elevated, empowered being, how will I show up in coherence in this situation? And that is a very deep conversation, because sometimes when you really ask yourself, and sometimes I have to go very deep to really know, because the answer's not easy, not clear to me, when it arrives, I know, oh, I simply have to stand back and let this happen. Oh my God. And how much of me rises up and wants to fix it or change it because it's painful to watch it happen, because it reminds me of something that happened to me or whatever it was, and then your own resistance comes up and you deal with that, not the other thing, not your responsibility. Your job is to be order. Your job is to be coherent and not to give your power away to other people trying to fix things. Take responsibility for yourself. Show up in the most coherent and loving and elevated and honest and straightforward way, and remember that your no is a big part of that. Your no is a massive part of that. No, I'm not going to do what everybody would normally expect me to do in this situation. No, I'm not going to be the one who fixes everybody else's shit anymore. No. Choose myself. Even though, you know, I'm not playing the game that everyone's seen me playing for the last 33 and a half years. And I have to deal with that. No. That's the deep dance, figuring out what shape that takes. But the more I live in coherence with myself, the more I live my truth, riding through my rough days as well as my easy ones, the better I get at it. I become the eye of my own storm. And whatever else is going on around me doesn't affect me the same way. So, I'm incredibly grateful to be sharing this with you. I hope it's been useful, despite the fact that I have not overcome severe incoherence in my circumstances for a long time. I manifested an exit from that. You know, it brought other challenges, but being around difficult people is not one of them. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very grateful to be with you out here in the garden on this gorgeous day. And it's Tuesday, and I'm going to update you in 3.5 hours on Sang-Marie, how he's doing in the Gambia. And it's been a pretty amazing week. We've had some miracles. So if you can join us for the update, it'll be great to see you then. Big love. I'll see you. Bye-bye.